Alright guys, this time we're going to talk about something that may seem somewhat remedial. We're going to talk about the Universal Gun Handling Rules. Universal Gun Handling Rules, the Cardinal Firearms Safety Rules, they apply every time you touch a gun. They're not simply range rules. We're going to talk about my take on them and the wording that I use. The classic wording that like most of us learned, I've got some problems with. We'll talk about what those are and why. The classic wording, the four Universal Gun Handling Rules or four firearm safety rules. The first in the classic wording is all guns are always loaded. Well, we know that's not true. And I think there's a problem when you try and have a rule that you immediately know is false. If all guns were truly always loaded, we couldn't clean them, couldn't do dry practice with them. So I don't like that. Now what I say is, we treat all guns as if they're always loaded. Whether I've unloaded the gun or not, whether I'm doing dry practice or not, I don't handle the gun any differently. I can do that. So I like to make sure that the rules are very explicit. Two, the classic wording is keep your finger off the trigger till your sights are on target. And yet, even in schools that use that wording, there'd be some sort of close quarters firing solution, some sort of retention position, whether it was the speed rock, whether it was firing from half hip, whether it was a count to a draw stroke. There was some form where the gun was not in front of the face, your eyes were not on your sights, and you were shooting. So again, here's the rule, and now we're going to ignore it. That doesn't work very well. My wording for Rule 2 is it's very wordy, and I fully acknowledge that, but I think it gets across what I needed to get across. And that is, keep your finger off the trigger till the weapon is indexed on threat and you've made the decision to shoot. What does that mean and why so wordy? Well, with the draw stroke that I use, and you can look at the earlier videos on draw stroke and see exactly how this is done, but at count to a draw stroke, this is my retention position. This is my close quarters firing solution. If I'm in contact with someone, I'm covered up, I'm in contact, at this point the weapon is pointed at the bad guy, pointed to his lower body generally, pointed at the bad guy, and I've made the decision to shoot, I'll touch the trigger. If, however, I am drawing the gun to full extension, I don't touch the trigger there. I touch the trigger once the gun has gotten level, once the gun's in line with the threat, and I'm driving the gun forward. So there's an example of a rule that does exactly what I needed to do and doesn't have that problem like I think the classic wording does. Rule 3. Never let your muzzle cover anything you're not prepared to kill, destroy, or buy. That's actually Jeff Gonzalez's wording, but I've always liked that one. The classic wording is never let the muzzle cover anything you're not prepared to destroy. Never let the muzzle cover anything you're not prepared to kill, destroy, or buy. I refer to that as the household pets and television sets rule. More household pets, TV sets, and light switches have taken a bullet because people do stupid things with unloaded guns. You have to be conscious of that. The two most common areas for self-inflicted gunshot wounds are the offhand and the gun side thigh, because people do stupid things where they draw the pistol and the sport hand is loose and they wind up pointing the gun at themselves on the draw, or, when reholstering with the finger on the trigger, point the gun at their thigh, the round goes, and the gun goes off, and you've got a problem. So you've got to be conscious of those things. And 4, be aware of the bad guy and what's beyond it. Be aware of the target and what's beyond it. Generally on a range, you always know what's beyond it. What's beyond it is the dirt berm. It's very easy. In the real world, things aren't so clear cut. Just because the big scary guy directly in front of you needs shooting right now doesn't mean your weapon's free. You're still responsible for every round that goes down range. So you have to be cognizant of that. And that may necessitate changing your angle between you and the threat, or doing some other things to minimize the danger to other people in the environment. So those are the Universal Gun Handling Rules. They apply every time you touch a gun. They apply on the range. They apply at home at the end of the day when you're taking off a gun. They apply when you're showing your buddy your new gun in the car. And they apply in a fight for your life. Every time you touch a gun, those things apply. We're not smart enough to have loaded gun rules and unloaded gun rules. And so we have to have one way of handling guns at all times. So that's my take on the universal gun handling rules. Now, I do want to mention in one of the earlier videos, specifically the one on stoppage reductions, the stoppage reductions overview, I was called to task because my hand, some of my fingers, appeared to go in front of the muzzle on the red gun that I was using to set up the demos with. Looking at the video, it very well could have happened. I've gotten sloppy in that video using the red gun because it was a red gun, and that really isn't excusable. You know, if it looks like a gun, if it feels like a gun, it should be treated like a gun, and you should adhere to the rules to the best of your ability. Thank you, guys.